Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming back to the Odyssey Studios. I'm Kas.
And I'm Bryan.
And today we're going to be bringing you a spoiler review. Okay, so keep in mind, you're getting the warning now. It's a spoiler. If you're here and you don't want spoilers, leave the video now. You have been warned.
Hurry so I can open the box.
Okay.
This video is brought to you by Fallen Dominion Studios. Check out their website at fallendominionstudios.com.
Spoiler review of The Rise of Fenris for Scythe by StoneMaier Games. Okay, so here we go. We're going to get into a little bit of the story, just a little, not a whole ton, and then we're going to get into all the different stuff that's in the box, and we're going to talk about what we liked, what we may not have liked as much, and a little bit of our stories of what happened in the game. So one of my favorite things about this expansion is the fact that it includes brand new factions and a type that we haven't really seen before when it comes to the Vesna faction. This one is one that you can mod up specifically with their own stack of module tiles, like, you know, mech mods themselves. But this one's going to come with things like Scout. Before combat, steal one random combat card from an opponent. Comes with Regroup. You may retreat to adjacent territories you control. Feint. After combat dials are revealed, you may turn yours left or right one space. Artillery. Before combat, if you pay 1 power, opponent gets -2. And so on and so forth. And there's just a whole stack of these jokers, kind of wherever you want them. I especially like Stealth. Movement does not need to stop for combat workers or tokens. Pick the ones that you want to actually cover up different spots on the faction map. We'll take a closer look at that. As you can see, she doesn't start with much power. She has 1 combat card with a regular river walk, which is different than the normal because it also allows you to do river walking from places containing a structure. So her ability, Technophile, allows you to actually hold on to 3 factory cards, and when you use one of them, it goes away. And also for this faction, you can cover up any home base on the board that you choose to start from. The Fenris faction has everything else that everybody else has pretty much, except a couple of key differences. It does have the airship and all that, but I do absolutely love this freaking mech right here. This sucker is massive. And let's compare it to one of Vesna's. I mean, it's no comparison. It is a murder bot on steroids, okay? It's awesome. Also, the person who has this faction can place their home base pretty much anywhere they want to, as well as the Vesna faction. Also, one of the key differences is the Fenris influence tokens. These things are pure evil if you're not playing as Fenris. Let's just put it that way. Everywhere you find one of these on a territory, you're losing money. You're losing points. You have to take this if you're somebody who is not an ally of Fenris. And they start with quite a bit of power, a couple combat cards. Now, here's how the influence tokens work. After moving your character, you may place an influence token on its territory. You may then place 1 more token on any other unoccupied tokenless primary terrain territory. So people who have this faction are going to be throwing these tokens around everywhere they go and causing havoc to other people's scores if they run into them. Now, the only thing I'll say about the mechs is they do move differently, so whoever has them really needs to figure out the strategy for using them because they, you know, for example, if you use the leap ability, when moving, you may skip adjacent territories in a straight line. So they move a little bit differently. They don't have a river walk, so to speak, but you have to jump in a straight line somewhere. So again, at the beginning of using it, you kind of have to figure out a new way to move across territories like that. So, and Fenris has some really horrific abilities, specifically Horrify. You may give an opponent 1 influence for each of their units you force to retreat as an aggressor. Death Ray. In combat, play any number of combat cards, but they must have the same value. This is one of the most brutal aspects of the game. There's only a few modifications that other players can use to stop this ability. It's really difficult. And Fanatical. May move to any non-adjacent territory containing an influence token, gain the token. Okay, and now you've got the War and Peace track. This is the peace side. As you can tell, there's no battle stuff, but it also adds in some new things like being able to get a factory card for stars, right, your victory track. It combines the mech and recruit symbols here. It also allows you to get one for getting 16 resources. And you also get, instead of 18 popularity, you get 13. So it changes a few things up. Then if you look at the war side still does a couple things. It combines a couple things. But if you look, 2, 3, 4 parts for actual battles, and there's a side here for 8 combat cards. So anybody who wanted to go more war or peace, I mean, you're going to be pretty happy about this. One of my favorite things in the whole game, it's right here, is the modular victory conditions. You basically pick out however many you're going to cover up the whole track, and you slide these over the actual victory track as you pull them. So it's going to be different every single time. It's amazing and awesome. Now, the module are your mech modifications. You're basically going to choose some of these and put them over other mech powers that you actually have on your player board, on your faction mat. Okay, so you can literally modify your faction mat however you want and open up mech powers that these mechs are sitting upon, and you've got several different new ones that you can put in place. So if you want to be more warlike and make your mechs, you know, more battle-like, you can do that. I'll give you a few for example. For example, like reinforce. Before combat, you may move your combat units from adjacent territories to the combating territory. That's awesome. Tactics. Before combat, you may pay 2 power to play +1 combat card. So if you're sitting high on power, that's awesome. In combat, entrenched. In combat, on a territory containing any player structure, you may play +1 combat card. That can be really mean. Armor. Before combat, an attacking opponent must discard 1 combat card. You gain that much power. Oh, it's an awesome one. So yeah, awesome, awesome, awesome. Really cool module. Now you've got the infrastructure mods. These literally go on the side of your player mat, and once you use them, like one of them, you flip it over like so, and it's no longer in use, but you've used your power. These are what I would call cheats, or I guess jokingly, kick starts to get you going quicker in the game. Give you an example of a few of them. You've got recruitment office. This is a free enlist, okay? So if you take that action, you can reduce the cost of 1 enlist action to 0 food. So basically, you get a free enlistment. Spy for combat. Negate 1 mech or faction ability before combat cards are selected. That's awesome, especially against Fenris's Death Ray. Oh my gosh, I had to use that against somebody and it helped me. Construction, same thing. Free building. Auto machines, this is double production output by workers and mills this turn. So if you produce, you're getting double what you would normally produce. Machinery, you can do a free upgrade, and you can do a free deploy. And then there's other different types in there as well. Another thing we have are the alliance tokens. I only got to play a little bit with these, but from what we did play of them, they're really cool. Basically, they allow you, if you ally with somebody, say I gave this to someone else, right, and say Brian gave me his Nordic. Well, if I was Rustvia and he gave me a Nordic, not only would I be able to use my own power, but I'd be able to use his as well. The ally tokens are cool, and if you break that alliance somehow, you lose 10 extra coins at the end of the game. Now here's the cooperative items, the desolation tiles, and the victory trackers that go along with it. Basically, you're fighting against the board. Now you have the Mad Tesla tile, and this basically gives you another NPC to fight if you so want to include them. That's pretty much how that works. And then also there's some alternate rules that allow a person to actually take control of Tesla. And Tesla's actually an interesting character, because it's not only a character, it's also a mech, so it can do both things. You're also going to be included a faction sheet in the game that allows you to track how many different kinds of stars you got, and this will allow you to get more money at the end of the game if you fill up the rows and columns and such with the check marks. You also can get setup bonuses in the game depending on how you do. You can pay $15 for perks. You track your victories. You also track your infrastructure mods, your mech mods, and your wealth. So, and you name your faction, and sometimes you may get a chance to change a faction, so there's a possibility for that. Now, there are some things I'm not getting into, like, for example, the Automa. There is a single-player version of the campaign, or even a multiplayer version of the Automa, so that's in there if you want to play that. Also, when it comes to components, the game does include 2 new extra battle dials, the Vesna and the Fenris ones, and there are also dice included in the game, and I'll let you discover why that is.
As a whole, with components and everything, was just phenomenal. You have so many different options you can choose throughout the campaign. You have peaceful tracks, you have war tracks. I mean, you can do either one. It's great in that aspect. Mm-hmm. So That being said, you have all these other different things that you can add on to you when you go on. You got your infrastructure mods. These were just great. It gives you the ability to enlist when you don't have any food. It gives you the ability to create
deploy mechs without any metal.
Every one of them does have a benefit that you're going to grab.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: we played through, and the thing that I liked, and again, I don't want to get heavy into the story, but basically, Tesla is responsible for creating the auto machines, pretty much the mechs. Okay, small and large, and what have you, and it led to a great war because all these different nations were buying from Tesla, and of course, when you get massive weapons of mass destruction or whatever you want to call them, unless you have somebody who can, handle that properly, well, guess what? If everybody's got them, it's almost like a Cold War, but then it can lead to a real war. Well, so that's kind of what happened, you know.
And your mech mods really come in handy for that when you get into going against those Vesna faction and the what was it, Fenris?
Yeah, Fenris.
When you go up against those two, your mech mods can come in handy.
At one point, there was actually a rescue mission at one point, and I found the Vesna faction, and that was this box here. Again, I showed you all this, but
first one.
I loved the fact that the Vesna faction automatically came with a ton of mech mods. And I love the models in the game. I love the fact also that it came with 2 extra factions, and it came with Tesla himself. Which is that one there? Yeah, Tesla himself, which is actually just an amazing mod because it's a character and a mech, so it can do both.
And also, there's a factory card. On it.
That's right, and that was already there to begin with.
Yeah.
So the Fenris faction was interesting. I think Riley was the one who got that. And pretty much everybody found something in the game. One of my favorite things, though, was hilarious because it was in this box.
Yeah, it was in that box.
And you had to stick this in one of the games. You had to stick this in the middle of the table. And it's in there, right? And it's in the middle where the factory is. And the first person to get there who opens it up, because Parrish opened this thing up, and he's like, I get an awesome, murder bot. And then he realizes, oh, crap, I have to roll dice. Oh my gosh, this thing has like 20-something health, and I've got to fight it. And he got his butt handed to him, which was hilarious. And he thought he was going to get something out of it, and this thing's just killing him.
And that's the other part of it. If you look on this Rise of Fenris box, you can see the legs of this mech in the background.
Yeah, it's actually on the...
Which, like I said...
On the front, and I think here on the sides. Which it was amazing the artwork brought that out.
It draws you in. So, I mean, you know what you're going to get, but you don't know what you're going to get.
Now, the one thing, as you go along and you're punching these things out, the one thing I will say that's a slight negative, but I don't know how well they could have... I'm not sure how they could have done this better, personally, is the fact that when you first open the box, you may get some spoilers right off the bat. I had a few spoilers that I didn't know what the heck they meant at first. I saw Mad Tesla on one of the punch boards, and now they're flipped over, and I know that StoneMaier did their best to make sure that they kept the spoilers to a minimum for the person that's punching these things out. But my recommendation is have one person designated to punch these things out and to go through it. But overall, the presentation was amazing. The modifications, I think the mech mods were cool. I personally liked them, but I think I like the infrastructure mods just a little bit better.
I think we all played more with the infrastructure mods than we did with the mech mods.
Yeah.
I think we kind of played peaceful is the way we started off.
I was the only one that wanted war at first, actually. They outvoted me on one of the games.
So you have the choice to go peaceful or aggression. We went peaceful route.
Yeah.
So it's a little different when you go the peaceful route. So you start getting a hang of the infrastructure mods, and you're not so heavily on the mech mods. But I do like the mech mods later in the game. It does come in handy when you start to get in more.
Absolutely.
But if you go the war mod, if you go war first, then you're definitely going to want to go with those mech mods probably more than the infrastructure mod. When we got to that, because if you do the peace track first, later in the game you do the war.
Yeah.
If we would have done the war first and then done the peace later, it would have come in a lot handier, because when you do the peace route, you get these little tokens here. And these tokens, you create alliances.
Yeah, the alliances are actually an interesting thing.
Because you get to take, if you choose an alliance with somebody across the table.
I ain't aligned with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have to align.
I'm kidding. I think it's funny.
You get their power. And I think later on it would have been a little bit more beneficial, because you would have got the Vesna and you would have got the Fenris. You could have done
probably
those, and
probably that would have been cool.
It would have been a little interesting.
The one thing I absolutely adored, besides the fact that it changes up your victory conditions, you know, with the stars, I loved the modular version of that, where literally instead of having some flat just board sitting over your victory track, you had multiples of that, right? If you had a ton of resources, you could get a star for that. I think 16 resources. There are things on there that are not necessarily listed on here. I think that was one of my favorite parts of the game, because if you decide to throw that in every game's going to be different. Another thing I brought up on the spoiler review, or the non-spoiler, was the fact that a slight negative to the game is the possibility that somebody is going to run away with it. Because in between games, you're building up wealth, but that wealth is only there to help you buy more mech mods, more infrastructure mods, and things like that. Get you like little perks.
Wealth only matters in the end game, which you accrue in that end game.
Yeah. Whatever you gain over the 8-player campaign games, it doesn't go towards that last one.
But it does help build you up.
Yes.
And that's the thing. If you do have that runaway leader, they're building up like crazy. So in end game, you have 1 or 2 infrastructure and maybe 1 mech mod.
And they might have 6 of each or whatever it was, you know. If that person has just got a jump start on the game later on, like 5 or 6 games in, because of all these mods, and you don't necessarily have as many, well, then they're going to be able to end the game a lot quicker before you get your engine up and running. And that is a possibility of a problem.
Yeah.
And that also lends to the fact that if you're not willing to go after that person to stop them from doing some of that, just keep that in mind.
You're gonna have to go. You can't necessarily SCYTHE Rise of Fenris. You can't necessarily play the whole game passive.
You really cannot.
I realized that by game 5, because after I won game 4, I realized game 5, I cannot sit there and be passive. You got to have a little bit more aggression, and you got to go after those players.
At the same time, the designers figured out a really cool way to help with some of that. It's almost like a catch-up mechanic in a sense. It's like a stopgap. Yes, that person is still going to have all those mods, and they're going to really rock that last game a bit, depending on the situation. But that last game, I liked that all that wealth they had built up ahead of time didn't count towards the last game totals. And I think that was an ingenious decision. You know, there wasn't going to be a perfect way of ending it, honestly, but that was a great way to help stop that winning player, that one that's really just steamrolling everybody with their mods and things. It helps to give everybody else a chance, because all your points in that last game count only for that last game. So whatever wealth you accumulated before then doesn't matter.
And you know what I mean? The other key to that,
I love that. I love that stopgap.
Is you have a log on here, your Triumph log, down here at the bottom. You want to focus on alternating those stars and getting these filled up, because these help with the end game. Because you know, I did win 1 game and I did have quite a few of these filled up, but he wound up coming ahead of me. I wound up coming in last place by $5.
No, I couldn't believe it. And he was actually doing better than me a lot of the games.
Most games I had more money than him most games, and I was doing more things. But
I love the fact that this is not legacy, you're not ripping cards up, that this is completely resettable, that you can put everything back in there the way it was, and you can play every base game of Scythe by adding in different modules the way you want to. And I loved that. So this expansion, I think the best thing to say about it is it tailors itself to whatever you want. You know, if you decide as a group, you vote and say, I want to be more warlike, let's beat each other up. You can do it however you want to. And that's something I've always wanted. I want to be able to make a game so modifiable that it can literally be anything I want it to be. And with Rise of Fenris, fire torpedoes. With Rise of Fenris, that's what you get in this. So if you are an avid Scythe player, even you like Scythe just in general, this is a must buy. So Brian, where you sit on a rating?
So
what would you say?
As I said in my non-spoiler review, at 9.5, it sucked me in. I was obsessed about it. I researched, I watched different videos on this, different videos on that on it, and different factions. It just drew me in so much with the story and the gameplay of it.
Yes. We would play 2 games a night, okay? 2 games a night, we finished it in a month, right? 4 weeks. I would go home after 2 games a night and still come home and play my digital edition of Scythe and wish I had the Rise of Fenris stuff in there, but I was still playing it. That's how much this game has
I was playing it in my dreams. It just shows you how much I like to get on my brain so bad.
I thought I was bad, man. What's wrong with you? You obsessive. This thing needs a court order against him. A restraining order.
There have been a lot of great games of 2018.
It really was.
And this is my number one for 2018, and I really enjoyed it.
And to be honest with you, you said a 9.5. 9 to 9.5. It's like right in that scope for me as well. Go get it as quickly as you can. It's so worth it. SCYTHE Rise of Fenris. It's going to never leave my collection. That's where I'm at on it. I mean, this game will, this will never leave my collection, and I'll hurt him if he tries to take
it. That's just a box.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you so much again. So, what did you think of the game? If you played it, did you get to play the campaign, or have you played just the modules? Let us know what you think. Are you a fan of SCYTHE? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you wish it had more warlike stuff in it? More peace stuff? Let us know down in the comments. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the Dice Odyssey. You have a blessed day.
It's SCYTHE away.
That's right. We're going to change it now. That's how much we like SCYTHE. So, game away.